to AI Revolution Digest, where businesses get smarter. I'm Jesslyn.
I'm Celia. Together we show you how AI drives real results.
And because the future isn't waiting, let's dive right in.
How is AI reshaping the future of work and financial futures? That is the question for today's episode. And now let's welcome our guest speaker for today, Attorney Jo Fernandez. Attorney, thank you for being here. Can you tell our listeners who are you and what is it that you do?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Celia and Jesslyn, with this initiative. I'm Jo Fernandez. I'm a lawyer by profession, but my career, spanning almost 40 years right now, is related to human resource management. Right now, I'm the chief HR head of a bank here in the Philippines. It is called China Bank Savings. It's a subsidiary of one of the oldest banks in the Philippines, the China Bank Group. And my education is all local, except for some stints in Asian countries and in the US, where the focus was more on organization development and HR compliance.
Thank you for that. My first question will be, what's the one thing about AI in HR that you believe everyone's getting wrong?
Oh, okay. AI, I'm old. I'm senior citizen. But when the first time I heard about AI, I got interested because, anything artificial is always anchored on something that is real. So when you say artificial intelligence, it means that we are now coming to an age where we try to replicate what a human being can do. So we have to ask ourselves, why do we do that? Why do we need to artificially duplicate ourselves? So in the beginning, I was looking at it as just like an inevitable development in technology, and you see as we move forward. But in reality, AI is there to make things easier, probably for those that are repetitive. Meaning, if there is something that is done repeatedly and accuracy is highly critical, or the parameters it's highly parameterized, that the errors are might make a big difference on the results, probably artificial intelligence is the way to go. The other thing, but I'd like to propose to our audience that we have to have a closer look at AI, being artificial as it is. The limitation is based on who creates the dataverse. Meaning, when we work along concepts, ideas and opinions, you will have to ask yourselves, like, that the AI technology is based on what dataverse? Is it the dataverse that is just like brought in there by anyone? Were those like proven? Were those like tested? Did we mitigate on probably breaches of security on and privacy of data? That one we don't know. So in my company, for example, when they had our very recently, I signed up a contract to have a chatbot for our customer experience management. I was very careful. We are partnering with a company, I think from the Nordic states, no? And we wanted to take a look at how it works. So we decided differently from the other companies. We created our own dataverse so that our use, especially for our clients, would be the parameters would be within the way China Bank Savings or CBS react naturally with clients. Because if I use a regular global dataverse that everybody uses, I'm afraid we will alienate our clients. So that's just an example of how AI had changed the landscape. But I also want to warn our listeners and viewers that we have to be very careful on where the data, where the intelligence is coming from.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
AI is more and more being used in HR practices, for example, pre-employment, background checks, and risk assessments. So how does China Banks ensure that these tools are accurate and not lead to discriminatory practices?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Celia. No, one of the things that would be easy to utilize AI would be routine jobs or jobs that can be like what I said a while ago, parameterized. So, like recruitment, for example. Um, right now, there are several tools that we use in recruitment, and I don't have to mention them here, but they actually provide they just put together data. They just put together resumes, CVs, put together they provide a search engine for us to be able to look for candidates. What AI can do here is probably to make it easier for us to see certain data, certain group of applicants in one go. Like when when the AI can categorize, for example, skill set, it will be easy to look for those. But I think the use of AI should end in the conglomeration of data. But as far as choosing which applicant fits uh, the bill in terms of a specific vacancy, I think the human intervention is very critical because you see, when you look at behavioral assessments for applicants, that is something you cannot put in a box. I know I don't know if you agree with me, because you being young, um, maybe my ways are old, but when you do face-to-face interview or you have some interface with your applicants, then you realize that they're different from the rest. Then you realize that sometimes the data that get attached to their resume is not actually who they are, because the dynamics of speaking to the person is not something that AI can accurately approximate. So that's my take on the use of AI in talent acquisition.
Thank you for that. And I just want to touch a point when you said about recruitment and AI, because there was a time when in LinkedIn there was a lot of fake job postings, or there were some bots that are trying to apply for job postings. Because when you go to LinkedIn, you can apply directly via LinkedIn and just upload some stuff.
Yes.
So
Yes.
cybersecurities are increasingly targeting recruitment processes with sophisticated scams. So how does China Bank Savings use AI to secure your recruitment and onboarding procedures?
Okay, admittedly, right now it's a very new technology, and I think it's just a couple of years that you mentioned LinkedIn, for example, very heavily using that among other platforms, no? But you see, China Bank Group, where the China Bank Savings, where I belong to, is part of, is on the conservative side. So we are very, very careful about having clarity in our governance, AI governance. So if you come to the Philippines, Celia, and you study certain banks, you might find our bank a bit on the yeah, we come in when things have been checked. So the bugs have been dealt with, and something like that, no? Because governance is very critical for the group. My bank is a savings bank. It's about 3,000 people in population, almost 300 branch networks. It's not really small. So the framework is clear and such that there will be a way to audit the outcome of using AI. So we test the results of recruitment using AI or suggested conglomeration of data by the different platforms. Now, Jocelyn mentioned about fake applicants, etc. Well, gladly, I haven't met that problem yet, but I know that I have been consulted about fake applicants, and sometimes they fish data. They undergo certain interview processes, and they go through the assessment, but actually they're trying to study the company, and it can result to data data breach. You see AI, aside from creating a framework for governance, the most important thing that we have to set up, which we're doing right now, is to ensure that data privacy is not compromised. The security of data is the one that is the most dangerous, I think, when we use AI, especially when we deal about uh, information on people. Information on people. Um, Maybe I should mention also about my personal concern about the bias concept in using AI. When you talk about people behavior, the way you assess the potential of the person, the trajectory of a possible career with you, it's very difficult to use AI because it depends on how you ask the questions. It depends on how you put the applicant in the situation that where you can judge if the person's ability, adversity, ability to look at adversities and to deal with certain decision making is AI may not be able to help. It can suggest certain parameters, but once you apply it in toto or as it is to the applicant, you fail. So the problem about the bias is has to be dealt with, but you cannot prevent it. If you anything artificial, bias is always the result. So what you do is you mitigate. You mitigate with a little bit more human intervention. So there has to be a balance about how much you can rely on technology and how much you rely on intervention of the human oversight. I call it human oversight, meaning there's always a human element in the before you make a final decision.
I have a question about the employee's point of view. How can you or HRM manage that employees don't feel devaluated or obsolete in a AI-dominated workplace?
Oh yeah, when you automate, assuming even before AI came about as a major intervention, a couple of decades ago, we're trying to automate processes, especially in the bank, where we have to be very accurate. We are highly regulated. The best way to deliver and be compliant is to automate. Okay, but it has never actually imperiled the capacity of people or the capability of people to be valuable. But that's a good question, Sally. The value of people. When you talk about robots, you talk about artificial interventions, we always equate it to reducing the human value. But but you have to. My personal view there is that the intelligence that the technology uses come from where? From humans. So we know exactly how to deal with that artificially uh, developed tool. So we are ahead. So the people should think of AI as subsumed from what they can do. It should never be overpowering. It should never be above what they can do. It is just something that they created just to make things easier, meaning this is almost ministerial. It's almost a no-brainer, right? But the human being has a brain that can develop more, and it should be able to do a little bit more. The leverage of doing more, the runway is longer this time because the menial things, the one that gets repeated, are done by something else, by the machine. So people should not feel that, but the organization, like me as an HR person, I will make sure that the people will understand where is AI in the whole scheme of things, so that they feel that they can create that part, they can create a dataverse, let the machine do it, but they now have more time to be more discriminate, to be more cerebral about things, and maybe innovation will be uh, there will be more progress in that area. You see, AI is an innovation, right? And innovation can't come from machines. It always comes from the human appreciation of what is available for him to use.
I'm just
I
curious as
hope.
to
Mm.
how are you gonna tell that to your employees? Because especially working in a bank, it's a
Yes.
lot of routine work. For example, if you're a loan officer, you input the data such as what's their monthly salary, whether or not they're able or capable of getting this
Paying.
loan. So that is what people have been doing for almost ever since the banking industry started. Basically, it's a lot of routine
Yes.
work. Now AI comes in and helps people by reducing this routine work. But for people whose core work is very routine based, how would
Ah.
you change or encourage people that AI is just here to help them? Or
Ah.
what way can AI give meaningful work, especially to those whose work is often routine?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. But you have to allow them to. There would be HR's job is actually capability building more than anything else. HR is not payroll, it's not recruitment. It's more of creating or coming up with a group of capable people when the company needs such skills. Okay, so since your focus now is capability building, then you have to reskill them. You have to do skills acquisition as a continuous activity in the company. For example, in the bank, mobility of people is something that I really focus on. People can be stuck in one job because once you're stuck in one job, you will become relegated to an equivalent of a machine because you do things day in and day out like a BAU, no business as usual. So at a certain point, you become jaded in that job. So the role of the HR is to take up the person, create learning possibilities, and an LMS or a learning management system should be more robust with the AI around, so that we ante our learning. We do more, we explore more, leave the nitty gritty, the ones that could be a source of a lot of frustration due to errors, to the machine, and then you start looking at what are the ways that you can improve certain processes, certain jobs, and then you feed again the routine to the machine and then move on again. So capability building is very critical. The learning part is the answer to making sure that your people do not feel relegated to undervalued people, or they can be replaced by AI. You see, many years ago, they have been talking about, will robots rule the world? Will robots take the place of people? No, because robots can only live when there are people who can think better than them.
What role do you see HR playing in building resilience against next generation cyber threats, and how will AI help in that process?
Okay, cyber threat is, in my opinion, I'm not. Maybe your other speaker can expound more about cybersecurity and the threats. Anything that is beyond anybody's control will always be a threat to anyone. That's my basic framework there. So when you talk about a technology, even the best programmer, even the what do you call this? The creators of technology will never say that they have seen the end of what they can do. It is an infinite, it is a continuum of things that they discover day by day. So therefore, we cannot fence what we do. So anything you cannot create a border on will always create uncertainty. The threats will always be there because you cannot be threatened by something you can imagine, you can actually predict, right? So the threat is there because people every human being knows that specific idea right now, that specific capability right now is not the end of it. There is always a way to go around it. There's always a way to challenge it. So the threat will be there now. How do you build resilience? The fact that they know this concept, that anything is not certain. Everything that they look at now in technology is just a part of a continuum that goes on infinitely. If they know that, then they will come up with a lot of governance safeguards. That they more governance stricter framework. They will start to maybe look at how to improve security of data. They will improve on audit or the trails of transactions, of the trails of exchanges of data. They can actually go back to the footprints that were created so that they can understand where the perils can come from. They can learn from previous threats and previous breaches. And if you are very young, no, so I recommend always that when there is a problem, there is a breach, you try to sit down and study the anatomy of that lapse. Study why that the breach happened, and then you start creating solutions to that. That's the reason why in this age, I don't know what generation you are right now, no, but I think what the advantage is that you have more access to information. I think you can create more solutions because you my experience in HR is that your generation is not somebody who I can ask to sit down and work 8 hours or 6.5 hours a day and do routine. I don't think you can hack that kind of job. So what you do, I think the job that you want is something that where you can come up with solutions. Am I right? You are a solution. Your generation is a solutions giver. You're not actually a taker of information. You have gone beyond that. Maybe my side, we are cautious. Maybe at the middle between you and my generation, they are the ones that actually take in all the automation part, no. But I think your generation right now, you don't just take in anything that's given to you. You question every single proposition that's given to you. You just don't sit there and take them. Therefore, there you have more leeway to create solutions that other generations may have not seen. So that could be a different definition of resilience. But to me, the fact that is this there is an infinite possibility to do more, and the fact that you always want to give solutions is enough. I feel like I'm safe for your generation, provided you do it properly, that the world will see more solutions. The world will see more innovative, less threatening use of technology. For example, right now, what kind of technology do young people like you enjoy? They call it apps, applications. At the click of a of a button, everything is there. In my time, we do COBOL. We studied Fortran. We do there's an error card. There's a punch card. So we think through everything. But now, somebody thinks through that. You use it, just click, and you're just like you're completely in control of everything.
That's interesting now that we're talking about decision making. So I'm curious because a lot of people are talking about AI. We should integrate AI in all our businesses. This is the best way to go. So I'm curious can you recall a moment when traditional based methods actually outperformed the newest technology?
Just recently, I'll just give an example. Just this last week, our customer experience team received a regulatory memo that we have to tell our clients. True enough, they as part of the process, they loaded the memo, the circular. When the customer started to ask, AI did not interpret it properly and the answers were wrong. We had to disable because there are nuances in the circular. Uh, um, we're still gonna study that in the next few days. I will be deep diving on how we can improve. And they were saying it's a technology that is not fit, etc. I said no. Probably now we have to realize that you should have not loaded the circular, but we should have loaded the frequently asked questions, or what we envision as what our clients will need, because our clients may be different. Their experience with us will be different. Okay, so that's one example. Now you ask about decision making, Jesslyn. I maybe the audience will find me conservative or maybe outdated, but I say the most that you can get of AI is a dashboard. Just see what you want to see. You don't have to spend nights calculating them, putting them together, doing statistical analysis. But when you make a decision, why would AI make that for you? Maybe suggest, but if you talk to me about it, with apologies to everybody, I will not let AI decide for me.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Concretely, how do you train employees to detect and respond to threats like phishing or voice cloning?
Okay. Phishing is very common. In the Philippines, for example, there would be fake emails, everything you just they bait you to click things. No? So we train them. In the bank, for example, almost every day, sometimes even twice a day. Anything that we find out, which we find out to be a new way of phishing, getting into your data, we are very transparent. We have to do a blast, and everybody had to learn what that was. So we explain how it's done, and how we can protect ourselves. In terms of other fake or deliberately unscrupulous actions to compromise data, we try our best to study every single breach, and we inform every single employee in the company immediately. So information dissemination is critical. But you see, you'll never be ahead of syndicates who do nothing but create those threats, right? So at least if you get closer, or you mitigate the impact as soon as the breach happens, that would be good. No? So, but again, it's information dissemination. You have to be transparent. You have to build trust among people, that when there is something that happens, you protect them by telling them that this can happen, and what do we do.
And I totally agree, especially when we know that cybersecurity threats, especially the hackers, in fact, they're one of the early adopters of technology, right? So they're always up
Yes.
there to what's new, so the threats are ongoing. But
Mm-hmm.
aside from that, when AI was first introduced, there's a lot of fear mongering saying that AI is going to replace us all, it's making business more efficient. So, when was the last time you felt nervous about a big change in the workforce, and how did you handle it?
Okay. I was trained. I started working in the 80s. Your parents may have not been born yet at that time. Okay, in the 80s, where in the Philippines, it was a politically unstable time. So everybody is suspicious about everything, but we know that change is coming. We know that we need to do some change. I came from a university, a state university from my country, and when we were trained to not look at everything at its instinct, that change is the way to go. So over the last 40 years that I'm working, there are few changes that rattled me, but the way to go there is that maybe you get startled like a couple of days, a moment, but you have to understand, why is the change coming? Because there are changes that are born out of your previous actions too. Actually, if you analyze changes that happen in front of you, yeah, for sure. I did that before, and I realized I was part of the reason why such change can happen. So I trained myself to believe that every change that happens before me is something that I contributed to in the past. Therefore, there's no choice but I have to participate. If you choose to be for example, in the corporate setup, like the way I was and I am, uh, it's a choice. You resist change, you get out, because there's nothing that thrives in instinct. The reason why it thrives because it bears a new leaf, a new twig is growing, etc. And otherwise, you don't live. So, so people are sometimes stunted by change. But the people who act like that, the way I experience dealing with a lot of people, are the people who did not build capacity, capability, who refused to learn. When you learn, the more you learn, I'm sure, I ask you, Celia and Jesslyn, you will not like end state. The more you learn, you will not like the way it is right now. Like, for example, your podcast, AI came, but you're not contented with what people say. You still want to do it yourself. You still want to hear it yourself. You still want to navigate the understanding of what AI is all about, and what it has in store for everybody yourselves. You could just sit in and listen to people, and you read and maybe not do anything, and maybe ask the same questions that they have asked people, but you wouldn't do that. So change is something that people who would like to live life should be expecting. And secondly, always consider yourself as a participant to what is end state that caused the reason why we have to change.
Thank you for that. And since you were awarded by us one of the most influential women in the Philippines, so one of the things that we're looking at in the workforce is, example, Celia and I would go and use ChatGPT to write cover letters for us because it's easier, right? So what is in your own opinion, what's a moment in your career where you trusted your intuition over data? Because that's, as what you said, AI is very good at just collecting data. It will only give you a dashboard. And yet, when you go up to your boss and make a presentation, a boss would ask you, where's the data? Where's the number coming from? Or if you want to go to your boss and ask for a raise, you could say, where's your numbers, right? Like, what was your performance last month or within the last 5 years for you to justify, I don't know, a 10% increase in your payroll? And as example, since you're head of HR, that's something you would often look at, right? You often look at data, not just because someone comes to you and say, hey, can I get a pay raise or can you hire me? You won't necessarily say yes. And yet you talk a lot about human intervention, human decision making. So was there a moment in your career where you trusted your intuition over data?
Yeah. All throughout my career, I can tell you right now with certainty that the ability of the human being will never lose out to data. Will never lose out to technology. Before, I was assigned to a place where they say the business manager who should be assigned should be Chinese, because the statistics say that the clients there are all Chinese businessmen, and they want to speak to just Chinese people. But it's not what happened to me, because I started to be patient and visit the client and listen to what they need until one day they found me present, and when they had a problem, I tried to give a solution. And from that time on, I was a preferred uh, contact person in the bank, not the Chinese people. Okay, how about salary raise? You know, uh, job evaluation, job pricing is a norm. That is part of what you do. When you say you're a compensation manager, you are actually let's say remuneration specialist or something, you put those grids. But again, I'll tell you, those grids are for the are for normal situations. The grid is for the ordinary employee. You can always go off grid. You can, the data can show you how it is, but you can decide beyond the data. The data will just tell you what is ordinary. But if your mindset is what is extraordinary, how can I deal with somebody who's outstanding, who far exceeds standards? I can look at what the data gives me, the plus board. I will look at your trajectory and organization. Today, you're just an average worker probably, but the way I see you on the other things that you do, that the data is also capturing, I can see that one day when we do this kind of job or when we move towards this kind of business goal, you will be the most fit. And you can get the raise now, even if the data says you're not qualified. Because otherwise, where will the discretionary discretionary let's say decisions that should be done by the superior, by top management, if data will just dictate what can be done? You can just imagine a world where you don't need CEOs, you don't need business heads, you don't need executives who can think, who can innovate, who can have a vision. Because anybody who says a business need not be a mathematician, need not be somebody who's fixated with data. These are the ones at the middle management. The ones who go up are the ones who have a vision. I ask you now, can AI replicate the vision I have today? As I speak to you, can AI replicate what I'm planning in my mind? No, nobody can do that. And that is the role of the CEO. Only when you go beyond data, that probably you can explore the realm of being a real leader, visionary, and a top-notch CEO.
Yeah, I just want to ask last question before we have a little surprise for you.
Okay.
Before this is something we do with all our guests. For my last question is you talk a lot about visionary and CEO, but for some people who are just starting their career, that's something that's not on our mind, basically. So one of my questions would be, with all of this data, as you talk about, it kind of make decisions for you, and employees who are just data locked won't really climb up the ladder. And you also talk about employees, right? You said we should always upskill employees. So one of the things that I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the skill set that people should have is asking the right questions.
Yes.
Because a while ago you said, okay, we have this circular memo, there's this software who can gather data. The software was bad, essentially. That's why you need to shut it down. But then my question would be, how can you train employees to ask questions? And the reason why I'm asking this is coming from an Asian background, at least our academic background, we're very routine-based learning, right? We sit in class, the teacher comes in, gives you stuff to memorize, and that's how we're tested on. And not just in Asia, but all over the world. So in what way can you train people to be more of a critical thinker, doing that's not something
Okay.
we've been taught us?
Okay, you see, now you maybe realize that I should categorize people based on geographical location, like Asians, etc. Because I worked for 12 years for a foreign company, and I've been watching people. But you see, if we are we are taught in a university and in the same course, uh, but do you expect people to build a career like just like everybody else? Even if you come from the same university, the same country, the same region in Asia or whatever classification you can think of, I bet you not everybody in the same category will act the same way, will build a career the same way. So regardless of color, creed, and whatever, the thing that will differentiate people um, is what you want to do or what you want to make out of what you have right now. So let me just explain that. Every time I mentor young people, they say that uh, they were just like they when they see each other, they can actually identify what would bind them, and what is that? That's what you're asking. They ask and they have the answer. If you don't ask, I want to be transparent to what I say. I try to duplicate what I know. So when there are four things that you have to understand when you are building somebody's dream. Number one is that person, you teach the person to be able to work with other people. There's no way you can work with a machine. There's no way you can develop yourself using a machine. Okay, develop the skill of working with others, collaboration, ability to have a conversation, not one way, not just listening, but you have to speak, because as you speak, your brain will also get attuned to the situation. So, and then second is that you build the skill to master everything you do. Mastery of the job, mastery of anything that comes to mind. It's not possible to build somebody who can be successful in the future who knows a little bit of everything. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my experience, mastery of something is critical. So anything you lay your hands on, you must have the ability to claim that you know it. You can't fake that. The machine can be configured to even fake a result. I will tell you that. If you configure it to let's say suppress certain data, if you configure it to spurt data this way, it will. It will. But I don't know if mastery is something that the machine can do based on the ability of the person who's deciding. Okay, so people can work well with others. The second one is that you can master whatever you lay your hands on. The third one is you have to make things happen. You have to start and finish something. Um, young people now are full of ideas. They're awash with data. They can touch everything that they wish to look into. Unlike my generation, but do you make things happen? When you start something, do you know the concept of closure? Do you know the concept of an output? But you see, you can only have the best output if you actually planned what output you wanted to have. You do not imagine the output as you go along, because you'll never finish anything. And finally, when you know better, or you have learned more, a few years of doing those, you have mastered certain things, you know how to deliver on required output, then try to duplicate yourself. You have to duplicate yourself on someone else. If you bring everything that you know to your grave, it's a sad state. That is not the way life should be lived. The reason why you can learn more is you're emptying whatever you have. And then look at how it can be used by other people, and you learn again. How you use the information that you have, or the experience that you have, when you share it with people. Sometimes they use it differently, and they find better. They get to better results than you had. Take that as your another experience. So once you unload what you know, you share it with people, you duplicate yourself, then you learn more, and then you can achieve more. You see, when you duplicate yourself, where are you positioned? You are the original, right? There's a duplicate. You duplicate again, you're always on top. So you just have to unlearn what you have learned, and you will learn more.
Thank you for that. That reminded me of a quote from Confucius, or something where it says that a bowl is only useful when it's empty, right? So same with continuous learning, you need to unlearn what you've learned, but it's very difficult for people because we're creatures of habit. And another point I want to make is what's interesting, you said that you need to make things happen. AI is just a tool that can help you make things happen, but ultimately you need to make that decision. And all this AI that's changing the workforce and HR and banking, it makes me wonder if we should stop asking kids what you want to be when you grow up. Like, what job do you want to have? Because it has this mindset that our identity is just tied to our job. I think with all this AI and continuous learning that you're changing, as what you said, I think the more important question to ask kids is, what type of person do you want to be in the future? Because you've talked a lot about. So thank you for your motivating words. And to end our podcast, we're gonna play a little
Okay.
game. It's just yes or no. Then I'm just gonna ask as much questions. We go through it within 1 minute. You just ask yes or no
Oh,
questions.
okay.
It's super easy. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it's easy. It's just yes or no questions. It's a game that we play for kids. So when you're ready, we're gonna start.
I'm ready. Go.
Okay. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Can you enjoy a road trip without snacks?
Yes.
Is pineapple juice better than orange juice?
No.
Should you always split the bill evenly on group dinners?
Yes.
Is it acceptable to wear gym clothes to a first date?
Yeah.
Really? You would go to a first date with gym clothes?
Yes.
I can't do I can't do that. Can people who don't drink coffee be trusted?
Sure. Yes.
I don't trust people who don't drink coffee. I think they're not human. Should restaurants ban crying babies?
No.
Can you marry someone who doesn't like chocolate?
Yes.
Should people over 30 still play video games?
Yes.
Are romantic comedies predictable but still worth watching?
Yes. Yes.
Can you skip a family wedding for a concert?
No.
Should adults
Time's
be
up.
allowed to? Okay, time's up. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Attorney Joe, for being here. I hope you enjoyed
Thank you so much.
our podcast. So before we go, where can
Yeah.
people reach out to you and find you?
Well, I have a Facebook. I don't know how that can help. So it's Jo Ferrer, and you can probably put it in your podcast. And I have a page that is called People Matters Matter, and maybe I should give that to you, the link, and maybe you can invite people to take a peek at what I write there.
What's it about? Like People's Matter Matter. What is it about? Like
It's
what?
it's a page. It's a Facebook page that I'm starting where I write about certain topics that some friends would ask me to write about. So instead of just answering their questions, I tell them that okay, I'll just write about it and just read to that page, and it's just starting. But I hope people will find something interesting in there.
I think one of the things you're gonna write about is about HR, right? So I know I'm asking
Yes.
a lot of questions
No,
aside
it's
from your
good.
page, but I think my last question I wanna close this podcast in is, what's the most human moment you experience in your career? One that data could never capture.
Um, when your health is failing and data says that it's failing, when data says this is how it will end, and when data says this is a medical intervention, in the beginning you'll be helpless. But if you if your will is to live, if your will is to defy the odds, just understand what's happening and find a solution to it. Data cannot replicate the will to live.
Thank you. That's a very strong statement. And to our listeners, thank you for being here and see you on our next episode. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.